A man is fixing his bike by the roadside, completely unaware that behind him, a crashing plane is plummeting from the sky, trailing thick smoke. Hearing the noise, he rushes over curiously. The crash site is littered with debris. The fuselage has been torn apart by the massive impact. Not far away, a black sarcophagus is stuck in the ground. Strangely, despite suffering such a violent crash, the stone coffin remains completely intact. This bizarre situation quickly catches the attention of archaeologists, but no one knows what the coffin is made of. No instrument can scan what's inside. There's no other choice. They have to open it to find out. Little do they know, this single act will unleash an unimaginable disaster. Today, we're talking about the 2026 horror film, The Mummy. The archaeologists are completely unfazed by the eerie scene before them. They quickly get to work, unwrapping the bandages, assuming it's just like traditional burial cloth simply used to preserve the mummy's integrity. What they fail to notice is that the inside of the bandages is covered in strange scriptures. At this moment, they're all captivated by the corpse gradually being revealed. By all logic, when a person dies, metabolism stops, and the nails shouldn't keep growing. But this corpse defies all reason. Seeing this, the expert quickly removes the final piece of cloth from the body's face. To their shock, the body looks as vivid and lifelike as a living person. The assistant hurriedly films this astonishing scene, but just then it turns out this person really is alive. They just don't know why she's been trapped inside like this. Meanwhile, far away in America, Jack and his family are on vacation when they suddenly receive a call from the US Embassy in Egypt. The person in their custody is none other than Jack's daughter, who's been missing for 8 years. Jack was once a war correspondent stationed in Cairo, spending years navigating conflict zones and the mysterious Middle East. But the man who handled such dangerous environments with ease failed to protect his own family. At the time, he was inside the house, busy with work. He had no idea that his eldest daughter, Katie, playing alone in the courtyard, had already been spotted by a mysterious figure who'd been watching her for a long time. By the time Jack sensed something was wrong and went to check, the stranger had already broken through the fence and taken Katie away. After searching everywhere with no luck, he quickly called the police, but after a thorough search, they found nothing. No clues, no witnesses. A living, breathing child had simply vanished into the endless desert sands. This disappearance shattered Jack's family in an instant. To escape the shadow of losing his daughter, Jack moved back to the States with his wife and son, trying to cover old wounds with a new environment. They even had another daughter to fill the void. Just as the family was finally beginning to let go, they received the news Katie had been found. The couple was overjoyed and rushed to Cairo to welcome their daughter home, but they had no idea this would drag their already fragile family into the deepest abyss. The moment they see their daughter, guilt and pain flood their hearts. Katie's face is sallow, her skin cracked. It's obvious she's suffered inhuman torment, but the doctor says all of Katie's vital signs are completely normal. Police Chief Roy warns that the manner of her return is highly suspicious. Until things are properly investigated, they shouldn't act on emotion.
What the fuck was our daughter doing in a 3,000-year-old sarcophagus?
Perfect human trafficking cover.
I remember you. You were there the day she got kidnapped. You had a working theory then too, didn't you?
But Jack and his wife are still bitter about the police's failure all those years ago. They refuse to listen and bring Katie home without hesitation. Because they now have 3 children to care for, the grandmother volunteers to move in. Seeing her granddaughter in such a pitiful state, as a devout believer, she immediately begins reciting scriptures and praying for her. But the moment Katie hears it, she becomes violently agitated. The family assumes it's PTSD, and quickly injects her with sedatives to calm her down. To help Katie recover faster, the mother, Anna, decides to sleep beside her daughter that night. As a journalist who spent years investigating dark truths, Jack has a natural instinct for the abnormal. Looking at the photos of the bandages covered in scripture that the police gave him, combined with Katie's strange behavior, he starts to feel something is very wrong. But what he doesn't know is, the bizarre events are only just beginning. Soon, the youngest daughter is woken up by a tapping sound. She quickly wakes her older brother sleeping below. The two search around with a flashlight and soon realize the sound is coming from the storage room. Meanwhile, Jack goes to check on Katie, only to find she's already gone. And right next to him, Anna hasn't noticed a thing. The two quickly get up and head to the kids' room.
There's something in the walls.
Hearing the noise, they immediately open the door to investigate. They work up the courage to crawl in and finally find Katie hiding inside. But as they get closer, they realize in horror she's catching scorpions and eating them. The sight of her swallowing scorpions alive is enough to make your skin crawl. The eldest son also witnesses this horrifying scene. The next day at school, he can't hold it in anymore and asks about it.
What happened to her dad?
Jack, equally confused, can't give him an answer. But to soothe the boy, he explains that Katie was imprisoned for years and often went hungry, so she got used to eating bugs to survive. When they get home, he adds a lock to the storage room, but while busy with this, he has no idea even more disturbing events are about to follow. At that moment, Anna is helping Katie clean up. Looking at her hideous nails, Anna takes out scissors to trim them, but the nails are incredibly hard. Without thinking too much, she just keeps applying more pressure. The next second, the entire nail, along with the skin, is ripped right off. This horror finally makes Jack realize something is seriously wrong. He urges his wife to send Katie away, but Anna turns a blind eye to all the strange occurrences, attributing everything to trauma from being missing for 8 years, and insists on keeping her at home. The two get into a huge argument over this. Jack blames his wife for always being busy with work and neglecting the family. Anna blames her husband, saying his job dragged their family into hell. The truth is, guilt has wrapped around them both like vines. For 8 years, they've been living in endless torment. Katie's return only caused 8 years of bottled-up resentment to finally explode. With no way to convince her, Jack can only comfort himself, maybe he's overthinking it. But while disposing of the torn skin, he finds something shocking. Not only is the inside also covered in scriptures, but beneath the skin, there's no human tissue at all, just the iconic white bandages of a mummy. Jack quickly peels them off layer by layer. Every single layer is covered in the same strange writing. Since he can't read any of it, he uses his connections to find a famous archaeology professor to help analyze it. After examining it, the professor explains that this writing is hieratic script, used only in ancient Egyptian religious texts. Because it's so ancient, he'll need to consult some references before he can translate it. Jack has no choice but to wait anxiously. He's afraid of what they might find, afraid of losing his daughter again right after getting her back. But he's also afraid that they won't figure it out, and the fear will keep spreading through his home. Under all this pressure, Jack starts to break down, and Katie, almost as if sensing his intense emotions, finally responds to her crying father. Jack quickly realizes his daughter seems to be sending him a message. The clicking sounds of her teeth have a clear rhythm. He suddenly remembers, as a child, Katie loved solving puzzles and had even learned Morse code. He quickly writes down the rhythm with a pen, then pulls out a reference chart to translate it. In moments, it becomes a single word, a name: Layla. Jack immediately realizes this must be the kidnapper. He rushes to tell Roy, but Roy says Layla is an extremely common name in Egypt. She'll do her best to narrow down the suspects. She also reminds Jack, try to remember if there was any friend or co-worker named Layla back when he worked in Cairo. Targeted kidnappings like this are usually committed by someone close.
No, none.
Anybody called Layla approach your family?
Or try to communicate with you since Katie went missing?
This reminder unlocks Jack's memory. After his daughter disappeared, many people had sent the family condolence letters. To honor her memory, Jack had kept every single one sealed away along with Katie's belongings. He immediately starts opening and checking them one by one. Meanwhile, the youngest daughter, just finishing up in the bathroom late at night, is heading back to her room when she hears singing coming from Katie's bedroom. Curious, she walks closer to listen.
Katie? Is that you singing?
Yes, I can talk now too.
Holy shit, I'll get Mom.
The next second, Katie calls out to her, says she wants to practice talking with her, to surprise everyone later, says she wasn't around when she left home, so she really wants to get to know her.
Like what?
Like how your little piggies taste.
That's when the little girl realizes something is wrong, but it's too late to run. The lights in the house start flickering wildly, but Jack, oblivious, isn't paying attention because he's finally found his suspect. The writer of the letter claims to be Katie's good friend, and says she didn't want this tragedy to happen to her. At first glance, the words seem harmless, but combined with the signature, Layla Khalil, Jack instantly senses something is off. After investigating, Roy finds there are still over 50 women with this name, but once they add the return address from the letter, the list narrows down to just a few. One of them quickly catches Roy's attention, a man who runs a peach orchard. And back at the kidnapping scene, there had been a peach that didn't belong there. All these coincidences make him a prime suspect, but without evidence, Roy can only go investigate alone. Meanwhile, the professor finally makes a breakthrough. The writing appears to be an ancient incantation used to imprison a demon. The bandages are part of the ritual. He theorizes, once unwrapped, the seal could be broken. What Jack doesn't know is, members of his family are already being influenced by the demon. In class, his youngest daughter is fidgeting with scissors.
It's not craft time yet.
Normally so well behaved, when called on, she suddenly bursts out with foul language.
You're a rat-faced cunt.
Meanwhile, Roy arrives at the remote farm, but after knocking, there's no answer. She bravely breaks in. In one of the rooms, she finds a small pyramid. Iron chains are arranged on the floor around it. Roy tries pulling one, and quickly discovers a hidden cellar below. Without hesitation, she shines her flashlight and climbs down. Inside, 4 iron hooks hang from the ceiling. The center of the room looks like it's just the right size to lift up a coffin. The pillars are covered in scripture. Everything confirms this man is the kidnapper. But just as she comes back up to call her team, she sees the front door is wide open. Layla has returned home. The two spot each other instantly.
Police. Mechanic.
Roy avoided the vital area. She isn't in immediate danger. But just then, a young girl, hearing the commotion, runs over and bolts out of the house without looking back. Roy chases after her immediately, but the girl isn't trying to escape. She runs to a nearby mound of dirt and starts digging frantically.
ايدك فوق! قلت لك ايدك فوق!
Hearing the gunshot, the girl finally stops. She slowly lifts up a box. Roy cautiously walks up and opens it. Inside is a videotape labeled Katie. It turns out the girl is Layla's daughter. The reason she dug up this tape is because her tongue had been cut off by her mother long ago, and she can't speak. Everything Roy needs to know is recorded on that tape. Meanwhile, back at the house, the grandmother, alone with Katie, can't help but start praying again. The next second, just then, Jack is bringing his troubled youngest daughter home. As he pulls up to the house, after investigating, the police ultimately conclude it was an accident. She fell while cleaning the windows. Now, even Anna can no longer numb herself with motherly love. She finally agrees with her husband's earlier judgment. But by now, Katie can't be easily sent away. They can only lock her in her room and prepare to flee. What the couple doesn't know is, besides the youngest daughter, their son has also been possessed by the demon. Katie, with her limbs bound, can only move her head. As she jerks her head, the son, in his room, mindlessly bangs his head against the bed frame. Thankfully, just then, Roy arrives with the videotape. The couple finally learns the truth. The demon inside Katie is an evil priestess sealed away by ancient Egyptian royalty. Layla's family are descendants of that royal line. For generations, they've carried the burden of maintaining the seal. But once the demon is sealed inside a host, the body is slowly consumed. The binding bandages will tighten on their own, until flesh and bandage become one. The host is transformed into a walking mummy, and the body is entirely taken over by the demon. Members of the royal family had no choice but to sacrifice themselves as hosts, generation after generation, until Layla's generation, when her mind finally broke. She discovered that as long as the incantations and rituals were correct, someone outside the family could become a host, and the younger the body, the longer it could endure. This twisted realization gave birth to her evil intent, and Katie became her unlucky target. Every day, Layla tempted her with candy. After Katie gradually lowered her guard, she gave her a peach with something hidden inside. The object burrowed into her body. After kidnapping her, during the host transfer ritual, the most crucial step, besides the constant chanting, was to position the person directly above the demon. Only then could the host transfer be truly completed. Witnessing this brutal truth with their own eyes, and thinking of the agony their daughter had endured while they had wanted to abandon her again, the couple wishes they could slap themselves. But the family watching the tape downstairs has forgotten one thing: their daughter's body is now completely under the demon's control.
Baby brother,
Yes?
wanna come help me get undressed?
Yes.
The possessed son grabs an iron pipe and crawls through the broken hole in the storage room. He unties Katie's restraints, then immediately begins tearing at her skin. Katie's skin has gradually fused with the scripture-covered bandages. It was only because Anna accidentally peeled off a corner of the seal that the demon was able to use some of its power. That's the only reason the family hadn't been killed yet. But as the seal weakens, the demon is regaining strength. Eventually, it can even tear off its own flesh to speed up the unbinding. Downstairs, the unsuspecting family finally sees the end of the tape. Layla places the host Katie into a custom sarcophagus. Then, before the demon can fully take over, she plans to ship her off to another country and abandon her to her fate. Perhaps even the heavens couldn't bear such cruelty. The plane crashed shortly after takeoff. At this point, the couple, overwhelmed with emotion, can't hold back any longer. They rush upstairs to unlock the door and free their daughter. What they don't realize is, the seal is now completely broken. The demon bursts out and tackles Jack to the ground. The other two rush in to help, but the power difference is massive. Roy is thrown down the stairs. Anna is knocked flat. Seeing this, she scrambles back into the room to find more sedatives, but when she turns around, her son has been watching her from behind for who knows how long. Defenseless, she panics and dives into the storage room, but her son follows close behind. Thankfully, Anna manages to hide in a corner, and from behind, jabs him with a needle, knocking him unconscious. Meanwhile, Jack, still under attack, gathers every ounce of strength and throws the demon off him, but it gets right back up, unfazed. In this desperate moment, he sees Roy crawling back up the stairs.
The words! You remember the words?
Roy instantly understands what he means. The two support each other and stagger back into the room. As the demon charges in, Jack tackles it and holds on with all his might. No matter how the demon strikes him, he refuses to let go. Roy, following the instructions on the videotape, slowly begins reciting the ancient incantation. Soon, the demon's attacks begin to slow. Jack seizes the moment, pins it to the ground, and positions it exactly as shown on the tape, with himself directly above the demon. Just then, Anna finally arrives. She instantly understands what her husband is about to do, but she's powerless to stop it.
I'm sorry.
As the host transfer is completed, Katie, not yet fully consumed, finally regains her senses. And that's essentially where the story ends. This time, Jack didn't abandon his daughter. He took the demon into himself, protecting his family at the cost of his own body. The film abandons the classic adventure formula, but I think that's exactly what the director intended. From the very beginning, he had no intention of making a traditional mummy movie. Treasure hunts, pharaoh battles, those tropes were already tired decades ago. What this director wants is to deconstruct, to subvert, to use a classic IP as a shell, to tell a story that keeps pace with the modern world. The core of horror has never been plot novelty, it's emotional resonance. Traditional mummy bandages were used to wrap corpses, but here, the bandages grow out of living flesh, symbolizing how evil has merged with humanity itself. To drive out evil, you have to destroy the ones you love most. To keep your loved ones, you have to accept evil. It's an unsolvable trap and the cruelest paradox of family love. The director uses the sharpest visuals and language to carry this suffocating despair to the very end. And the chilling final scene reveals the full ambition of this 2026 mummy. Katie has finally returned to her family. But Anna knows deep down this family, now missing yet another piece, is only pretending to return to normal. She has to pull this broken family out of hell, truly, completely, with her own hands. Soon, Layla, locked away in prison, is visited by her daily nurse. She doesn't think anything of it. She even cracks a casual joke. Child trafficking only carries a sentence of 8 or 10 years anyway. As long as she doesn't die, she can endure any cost. But just then, the nurse suddenly injects her with a sedative. It's Anna, in disguise, and then Roy slowly wheels Jack into the room. Realizing what's happening, Layla begins trembling in terror, but the sedative is already kicking in, she can't move. As the door closes, the ancient incantation slowly drifts out from within the room. I'm Jack, see you next time.